They use that shit. He needs somebody with some bass to introduce him.
I got you. That's what's up. But we on, y'all. We on.
All right.
That's how you do that.
Can you still hear us?
Yep, gotcha.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Now, I don't know how to get both.
What you mean on the screen?
Yeah.
I don't think you have to.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Cool. Well, peace. Yeah. So, well, peace to everybody that's coming in. Welcome once again. You are rocking with Ernest and
Khamsin,
and we are Remnants Gathering.
aka Widow Gang Gang.
Yes.
Yes.
Tonight, y'all, we are definitely, we always students of life. Let me first begin by saying that we always are students of life, but tonight we have some phenomenal learning that is going to be taught. I'm gonna put it out like that, by the primordial chaos Lord. Man, we've been following him for a few years, and has had the opportunity to glean a whole lot and learn a whole lot as it relates to the left-hand path. And so I don't want to just put all that fluff on it. I just want to say we right now about to begin to hear from our brother Ravana Nun.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to see what it was looking like.
Yeah, see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm through messing with it. Is the name gonna be up there the whole time?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like
I would just leave the Zoom app open.
Okay, so let's see.
Hit done. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah. I know you probably was like
primordial chaos Lord. I'm like, is he doing disappearance shit already? Like, wait, I ain't even took that class yet.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, without any further ado, man, we definitely like Cam said, we gonna pick your brain, but at the same time, it ain't even picking your brain. It's just allowing you to flow. You know what I'm saying?
Sounds good.
Yeah, definitely. Did you? We
can start with some questions.
Okay.
You want to start with some questions? Or
we can start with questions.
Right.
And yeah. We excited, man. We like little kids over here.
We've been stalking the hell out of you. Like, who is this? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Especially when we realize, hey, this is the path and this is the way we need to be working.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll jump in here and just say, first of all, the reason why we got him on the show is because it is very, very clear to see that we are in a whole different type of era of energy. And when you are in an age of Aquarius like this, and the setting is the way it is, spiritual bypass, religion, right hand stuff, like it wasn't working for us anymore. So I know we're probably not, we're preaching to the choir, so to speak, but it's just not working. So the Dark Lord of chaos, primordial chaos himself, he's been through so many different spiritual systems. And so, yes, this is why we have him on the show tonight. So y'all welcome Ravana Nun, none other than Ravana Nun.
Yeah, I take that as they don't want none.
Right. So, okay, let's just get into it then. We go start straight off and get right into it. I'm just letting y'all know, be ready for this, okay? Like, if your mind is closed and you're not ready for expansion, this might not be the show for you tonight, because we're all here to expand.
That's right.
All right. So, from your perspective, first of all, can you share with us the belief systems that you've been through and how you ended up where you are?
Yeah.
Sure. All right. First and foremost, let's see. My journey began in 1989. Well, actually a little earlier than that. Probably about 86, 87 when KRS-One came on the scene. That was my introduction to some level of consciousness.
Yeah.
KRS, Rakim. And then from there was Poor Righteous Teachers, King Sun, you name it, Public Enemy, so on and so forth. Okay. So there was a song in about 87 going into 88 where he put out KRS-One called You Must Learn. That sparked something in me to go discover more than just what I was told. All right. So it began then. Around 1989, I had read, studied. I started getting into really deep studies of monotheistic religions. What do I mean by that? The three Abrahamic faiths, Judaism or Hebrew, Islam, and Christianity. Well, I was raised a Christian as a Seventh-day Adventist. Very uptight, very strict form of the denomination of Christianity. Islam is another disciplined school. A lot of it is discipline, not what people see today. Back then, we didn't just pray 5 times a day. And the Quran actually says you can pray up to 7 times a day, which we did. Yeah. So we had to get up early, Salat al-Fajr, so on and so forth. All right. Then got into studying Hebraic as well. But during that time, I also was studying and seeking. So I was also studying the 5 percenters, the nation of gods and earths. And a lot of their teachings still have a lot of validity even to this day. Back then, people were kind of like offended by them when they said, you know, that they are the only God, you know, they are Father Allah is Clarence 13X, but they are gods in their own right, so on and so forth. So people really didn't understand it. It took me a while even then to understand things. After that, I continued my journey. I started studying the mysticism as related to the monotheistic religions. I started studying the Order of Melchizedek. I started studying things like Sufism. I was into Sufism for a long time. So we would do a lot of the dhikring, which is chanting in another way, utilizing the 99 attributes of Allah. So I did that for a while. So on and so forth. So I really got into studying, not just what I find a lot of people do is they just read books, but never take a deeper path, meaning going deep inside to find things out for themselves. They rather be preached to than discover things for themselves. After that, I went on Rosicrucians, a lot of Kemetic or Egyptian information. I studied under the Astara and became a part of their order. Astara is like a new age secret society or order. So I did a lot of these studying. I looked upon a lot of these things for years, not just a few years, for years. So around 2010, I was exploring. Well, let me continue. All right. So during that time, I studied all that. Around 2004, I got deep into the African traditional religions. It is in my family. My family is from my mom's side from Puerto Rico. So Santeria, which is a syncretized version of Ifa, was heavy in my family. So I started that journey in that route, got initiated under Obatala. So Obatala was my ruling Orisha. So I went down that journey and learned more about the African tradition. I was going to go into Palo Mayembe, but the Tata told me that wasn't necessary. When he did a reading, he found out I had a room full of spirits that I walk with. So he said, you don't have to do this. So I didn't go further into that. So after that, I was already into the magical system. Starting in 99, I started studying Egyptian magic and African traditional religions, so on and so forth, till 2010, when I was really looking at life and I said, you know what? All this is starting to bother me. What I meant by bothering me is when I looked at life, everything was externalized. We worship Allah. People worship God, Yahweh, Jehovah, Elohim, Orisha, Netaru, so on and so forth. There were always something outside of ourselves we were begging, asking for, or praying to help us. Along came the left-hand path. I remember finding a book by Michael W. Ford, which was called Sekhamapep. And it was about vampire magic, left-hand path, Luciferianism, things of that nature. In that book, it really hit home, because in that book, essentially what was revealed to me was the left-hand path is the adversarial path. It is a path that is contrary to everything we've been taught up to this day, meaning all the religious systems and mystical traditions associated with those religious systems. The adversarial path was contrary to that. So when we looked at the gods and goddesses and the heroes and the prophets of these light side religions or right-hand path, and the left-hand path, we look at the adversarial contrary to that. And what we discover is, as we go into the left-hand path, the adversarial path actually has information that is very beneficial to our people. When I mean our people, are melanated people, because as a melanated people, by tradition, we've been a very communal group of people, and it's still like that to this day. And a lot of times, people were shunned for being an individual. People were shunned for reaching for success, not including the rest of the community or tribe in that, seeking of success. Community living can be beautiful, but at the same time, it can be detrimental. And what I discovered through left-hand path is a lot of times we're our own worst enemy, because we're always beating someone down for their success because we can't reach it. So therefore, we want to tear them down. We want to make them feel guilty, bad, or whatever the case for reaching that. Well, the left-hand path is a path of self-deification. In Greek, in the word apotheosis is a Greek word, which literally means becoming a god. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not saying God as in you're Allah, Yahweh, Jehovah, some sky daddy or sky mama sitting up somewhere in a throne, looking down at you and writing down all the good and bad you did. Kind of sounds like Santa. But anyway, doing all these things, and then everything you do is for brownie points or strikes against you. No. Self-deification and being a god on this path is simply this. A god to us is someone who takes responsibility for all of their life, meaning good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. See, it's easy to take ownership over beautiful things, successful things, things that are just lovely. Very difficult to look at our failures, our mistakes, and own up to them. Because usually when someone looks at their failures and mistakes, what they tend to do is blame someone else. Blame someone else for their failures, and all the mistakes they did. Is always someone who did it. It was their fault. No. What we learn on this path is you take total responsibility for all of that. We also learn is that a lot of those situations that we created comes from our subconscious mind. 95% of your so-called reality that you're living in today literally comes from your subconscious mind. And therefore, most of the time you are reacting to things and not creating things. You're reacting to things based upon the programming you were raised under. Now, what do I mean by programming? It's a systematic method that is used to condition your mind to accept certain things and to follow certain protocol. So for example, your first level of programming began with your parents. We love our parents. Sure, well, not always the case. Some of us might have had asshole parents, but that's okay. You have to accept that reality too. But the point is this, your parents were the first to begin the process of programming, conditioning you. They're basing their programming conditioning from what they were taught from grandma, granddad, great grandma, great granddad, so on and so forth. And so by the time you come of age and you're learning all of this, by the time you're 7 years old, most of what you've been taught was already given to you from your parents. And if not from your parents, then by the time you're 6 or 7, then comes another level of conditioning programming. It's called the educational institutions. Mm-hmm. Elementary school, middle school, high school, college, where they teach you how to think the way they want you to think and not help you think as you should think, which is independent of control and programming. Think for yourselves and create for yourself. They don't teach you that in school, because the whole purpose of education is to keep you under a certain programming so you can just be another slave for their society, where you just are neatly and nicely prepared to be set into the workforce. Mm-hmm. And under the workforce, you have another overseer or another lord over you telling you what to do. Right. And every level you go up, even in the corporate world, you always have someone above you. Mm-hmm. So the point is, you're created to basically follow protocol, follow programming. Mm-hmm. The left-hand path believes that in order for you to reach self-deification, you must first journey deep into your subconscious mind. You must journey into the deepest recesses of your subconscious mind, which we like to call the abyss, where therein you start to attack and confront your programming. So what do I mean? Okay, so let's say someone does you wrong. There's a certain trigger that was created from the programming at hand where you react to this certain trigger in a certain way. So let's say you cry for attention. You are an attention seeker, and someone doesn't give you attention, so you go and start having a big tantrum. That started in childhood, because most of your programming that you're still living out today started from 0 to 7. So when you didn't get attention from your parents, you started crying. You went into a tantrum. And notice, you could be 25, 30, 40 years old. You're still going into a tantrum today. You're still repeating that same programming, and trigger points are still affecting you to react the same way. Woo! So this means that at an early age, at this age, whether you're 30, 40, whatever, you still are really literally a child in an adult's body, mentally. You're still a child in an adult's body, because you're still basing your reactions, and everything you do is triggered from the subconscious. So the left-hand path says the first step you need to do is go deep within your subconscious mind and start to confront your programming. So there's certain work we do where it's called shadow work, but shadow work now has become such a mainstream thing that they really are not understanding the depths of what a shadow work really is and what it does. But anyways, the shadow work literally is, let's say there's a ritual, and which, for example, I created a ritual. It's called a mirror ritual, where you have 2 mirrors. And one mirror represents your true self. The other mirror represents your program self. And in each mirror, you ask a certain question. And as you keep asking these questions, what's happening is the questions are designed to make you journey deep inside of yourself. So now what's happening is you're bringing up things in your subconscious mind that have hindered you, that have controlled you, affected you, and need to be confronted so that you gain power over it and no longer are controlled by it. You now control it. Therefore, if you don't go deep within yourself, what work are you really doing? Because, people will tell you it's about mastering yourself. Yes, the left-hand path is the path of self-mastery. And to master yourself, you must confront yourself, meaning all the little secrets you hold, all the little things you hide about yourself, meaning all the little things you want no one to find out about, you eventually have to confront that. You also have to confront the reality that you might have done some bullshit in your life. You might have done some negative things in your life, and you never took ownership over that. because you blamed everybody. So that's another aspect that you must encounter and confront, taking ownership of your behavior. Your behavior has to be controlled and dominated by your true self, and not just the subconscious self, your true self, which on the left-hand path we call the daemonic, not demonic, daemonic, D-A-E-M-O-N-I-C, which is really means in Greek genius, supernatural, or true self. In so many words, that is your true self, that you hear that one voice that constantly speaks to you that you ignore. That's your true self talking to you, and it's not coming from outside of you. It's always been inside of you. You just choose to ignore it for whatever reason. Well, on the left-hand path, we learn to awaken that demonic self. And the way we do that is we question everything, but not just question everything, because here's the thing. You can question everything, but if you're not questioning yourself, what purpose is there in questioning everything? The most important person to question is yourself. Question yourself about everything. So on this path, the journey to self-deification is not an easy task. It is a task that is difficult because certain things may arise from you. You might have had a childhood trauma. And now when you do this ritual, that childhood trauma rises, comes up to the top, and you start to see it, how it's affecting you today, and how a lot of the things you do and how you react to things is based upon that childhood trauma. So what do you do when it comes up? Well, you confront it, one, because you identify that it's a trauma. Two, you identify how it's affecting you. And now three, you have to do something about it. What good is it to just identify it and not do something about it? So what you have to do about it is to rewrite the programming. If this trauma created a certain programming inside of you, you must rewrite that trauma. How and why? Well, first of all, how is in this ritual, whatever rituals you are doing, it brings up that trauma. You see it. You'll see everything that occurred in that time. Now you have to rewrite the event and turn the outcome of that event to something that would have been of benefit to you and not what ended up happening. You have to literally rewrite that so that a new outcome happens in your mind, and therefore you create a new programming from it, a programming where you are in control and you are dominating over these things that have affected you for so long. Literally, that's what the left-hand path is. Now, what scares people is this. On the left-hand path, what scares the living doo-doo out of people is that you start dealing with the adversarial current. So the adversarial current is things like Abaddon, Belial, and all these demons you hear of freaks the heck out of people because all they've ever known is Yahweh and God and Allah and things like that. But I have news for you. Look at your Bible closely. Every time you see a murder, plagues, diseases, firstborns being killed, it wasn't no Satan. It wasn't no demons doing it. It was your God doing it. Now, that may rub people the wrong way, but go read it for yourself, where God killed the firstborn children of Egypt. Why? If he's the almighty, all-powerful, what was the purpose of that? Couldn't you just turn the hearts of the Egyptians? Couldn't you just convince them to let your people go? Why you got to kill the firstborn kids? See, it's theatrical. You know, oh, God is so powerful, really? If he's so powerful, then all you got to do is wave his hand, or she got to wave her hand and say, okay, the Egyptians, you're going to be on our side and we're going to work this where you let our people go. But no, you had to end up killing the kids, killing the firstborn kids. What does that say? That says the God of the Bible is a murderous fool, and we're fools for believing that we have a chance with that murderous God. Whereas you take responsibility for your actions and ways. You don't need gods. You don't need any of that. to reach your true potential. But on this path, we will use things that are considered adversarial, wrong, or evil, because if you don't confront what evil is, you'll always be afraid of what you think it is and never realize evil is not what you think it is. Evil has been under your nose in the version that they wrote, and all these gods and Jesus and all this beautiful stuff. Evil's always been there. And they made everything that was beneficial to you seem evil, because when you learn to take control of your life, then okay, you don't need a God anymore. You don't need all these things anymore. So no, I have to make all these things that will lead you to your self-deification seem wrong and evil, so you stay away from it. That way you can never be a sheep if you really take hold and say, why do they keep telling me not to read this, look into this, don't do that, don't do that? I can tell you this from my own personal experience. Everything your parents told you not to do, if you did it, you would have been a lot further in life than if you kept listening to them and their religious rhetoric. I'll tell you, most of the things they tell you not to do is because through those things, if you've done them, you empower yourself. But see, they repeat a program and you're just following suit until you shake the cobwebs out of your head and say, you know what, I need to take control. I need to be the one taking control. And so, therefore, everything you told me was evil. I need to find out, why do you say it's evil? What is so wrong about Lilith in the story of Adam and Lilith? What is so wrong about that? Why do they demonize Lilith? Oh, why? Because as the story goes, when they were having intercourse, Adam wanted to dominate and be on top. And she wanted to be on top, and Adam refused. So because she wanted to take a position of dominance for a moment, Adam became a sissy and said, no, I won't let you do it. So she said, bye. If you ain't gonna let me experience what I want to experience, but you can do what you want to do, and that's okay, but I can't, then I'm gone. And see, that shows women's strength, that woman's power to think for themselves and choose their own destiny. But in this society, that's demonized, because women, especially melanated women, have been demonized for their beauty, for their energy, for their strength, for their power. So they're demonized to be that, to allow themselves to be beautiful and strong and in control of themselves. Because we as men, to hide, I'm not saying all men, but a lot of men, to hide their fragile ego, they have to dominate the woman. They have to act like they're in control, because they can't really stand as a man. And she's representing her beauty and her strength. You know why most men do that? Because they know if the woman had a choice, she might have not chose your ass. That's why. Right? That's why they don't like that, because they don't realize. Listen, I learned this the hard way. I'm 50 years old now. So let me tell you the hard way what I learned. You know, when you're young, you're egotistical, you cocky. Listen, it ain't the man who chooses the woman. The woman chooses the man. And you just the lucky one she chose out of probably about 10 people who wanted her. So consider yourself lucky. But don't get too cocky and think like you the hot thing now because she chose you and you thinking you chose her now. You best believe most of the time she chose you over other people who were suiting her and courting her. So no, please. That's what people don't understand. On this path, the demonic feminine is key to understand. On this path, we raise up the demonic feminine. Let me explain who demonic feminine energy and some archetypes that are symbolic of that demonic feminine. I already mentioned Lilith, but let's mention someone else you may be familiar with. Kali. Kali is a demonic feminine. Sekhmet is a demonic feminine. Okay? Hecate is a demonic feminine. Oya is a demonic feminine. So on and so forth. Now, what do all these females have in common? I'm going to share what they have in common. They're all warriors, by the way. Have you ever noticed how Sekhmet whipped some serious butt? Have you ever noticed that Kali also whipped some serious butt? Why is it that when you go through the annals of time and we go into the mythos of different societies, civilizations, and cultures, the demonic feminine usually stands out as the one who really kicked some serious butt? She's the one that was really destroying and conquering and mastering. Tiamat of Sumeria, another demonic feminine who was powerful. And I could keep going on and so on and so forth. But the demonic feminine is raised up in the left-hand path as opposed to the right-hand path where they oppress and suppress the woman. The woman is raised up on a left-hand path so she can claim her dominance of her true power as a warrior and a mother and a sister and a wife and a lover and whatever other titles she wants to obtain. That is her choice. That is her right. So we have to understand that, okay, I'll give you an example. When I was in the conscious community for years, and that was a long time, I was there for years. There was always this discussion about the woman being the god, right? Black woman being the god. But yet, 90% of the people saying that were dudes who never let the woman teach. So how much of a god is she if you never put her up front? See, on this path, we do put the woman up front. As opposed to just rhetoric, we just saying it because it sounds nice. And a lot of dudes that used to say that were saying it because they're really trying to get in your underwear. That's all they're doing it for. Oh, they're saying she's the goddess. Look, oh, she, yeah. So, But then you never see them teaching a class. You never see them putting the woman up front to teach. Why? Because you're just saying it because you really want to turn her on, but you don't really mean it. Well, on the left-hand path, the woman is empowered. Many of the rituals we do is for the female to be empowered and for men to understand the feminine energy. Khamsin, you had another question?
That's deep.
You ran it down.
Like you asked about 20 questions.
All right. Let's see if you got another one. Let's see if you got at least another one.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So is it safe to say that because of our upbringing, that religion trained us to be victims that ruminate and always feel guilty about some shit? So you're never ever really to grow and heal because you carry guilt for all your failures. Is it safe to say that?
Yes, it's 100% safe. Religion in itself has been designed from your birth to make you feel guilty. This is why they use that teaching method of the original sin. Humans were born in sin, so on and so forth. See, if you are convinced that you're born in sin from your youth unto this age, and you keep hearing that over and over and over, then you're going to think that you can never do anything right, that everything you do is sinful, that you as a human by nature is sinful. No, that's not true. They do that because it's leading you to stay in the sheep realm of thinking, the cattle realm of thinking, the herd mentality. So if I have 8 billion people on the planet and I have hundreds of millions of religions, and most of them are designed to convince you that you have to pray to God, follow a God, do offerings to gods or goddesses. You can't do nothing without God. You need God for everything you do. Well then, no wonder we're in the situation we're in, because no one feels they can do it for themselves. They always feel they need some hand outside of them to do it. So that's very safe to say, because in essence, since our introduction into this world, from our mother's womb into this world, we've been told that we need someone to do it for us. Our parents are a part of that. As, I love my moms and everything else, and some of us do too. But our moms used to tell us, if you don't do what I say, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out. Right? How many of us heard that? See, that means as much as they tell you to think for yourself, no,
they don't want you to.
Not in this household. You ain't thinking for yourself. When you get out of this house, you could do that, but not. See, that's all a part of our programming, and it's a part of what keeps us bound and controlled. And therefore, we never feel like we can amount to anything. That's part of the major problem why a lot of melanated people can't rise up. It's not because you're not trying. It's because somewhere in your subconscious mind, as you are trying, that begins to come up. And therefore, as every trial and tribulation keeps occurring on your path to success, the failures start to mount up. There comes the programming kicking in to make you give up. Let me tell you this. Before I got in the left-hand path, I had tried owning every kind of business imaginable, and they all failed. I'm going to be honest with you. I failed more times than I succeeded, and most entrepreneurs will tell you that. You're going to fail more times than you succeed. When I started on the left-hand path, and I started learning to master myself, I started to succeed. I don't just teach classes and all this. I'm a real estate investor. That means I do flips. I do buy and holds, which is vacation rentals, and I rent things out through Airbnb and things like that. Okay, I started to succeed because I started to realize nothing and no one's going to do this for me until I do it for myself. Nothing is there is no helping hand. There is no Jesus coming back to save you. There is no some miracle coming to knock on your door and say, here's a lotto ticket, you won. That's not happening. What is happening is when you get up off your butt and take the steps to accomplish your goals, you will, as long as you overthrow the programming in your mind and realize you will fail more than you will succeed. If you can't allow yourself to embrace that fact, then you might as well give up before you even start. I'll give you a quick example. In the sport of baseball, to be a successful hitter is a person who hits the ball 3 times out of 10 times they face a pitcher. That means 3 out of 10. That means they fail 7 times. And they're considered a success if they just hit the ball 3 times out of those 7 out of those 10 times. Okay? Wow. So that shows you there, if those hitters gave up because they failed 7 times, they would never be multimillionaires like they are now, because they learned to realize failure is a part of life, but it's not how you fall. We all heard this, it's how you get back up. But what does that really mean? Means that if you fall and you allow that programming, that guilt and everything to consume you, you will never get back up. But as long as you realize, I will fail, but as long as I can confront my weaknesses, confront these issues I have about what it means to fail and not be so hard on myself and realize I can take control, then you'll get back up and you will succeed. That's the key. So
this make me feel like that's why so many people, even me, I started a lot of businesses and I wasn't having success, and I couldn't figure out what the issue was. I went back to school a few times. I was like, maybe I need to go back to school. It still wasn't working out. Okay, so that leads me to the next thing. So would you say that the cure is the left-hand path almost like the cure to this ailment? Because this shit sounds like a disease to me. It sounds like a mental, spiritual disease. And as long as you still have that subconscious programming, you're really like in purgatory. So you're really not evolving or moving anywhere. You're just kind of stuck in this space where you don't know what to do.
I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, from my personal experience, yes. The left-hand path is, if I was to speak to a group of melanated people, I would sit there and literally say, listen, I will tell you from my personal experience that if you really want to know what would help a lot of our melanated people is the left-hand path. Why do I say that? Is because if most of us really take responsibility for our lives, for our actions, and realize that you're the master over your life, then we can start to accomplish greater things. As more individuals start to do that, then truly you can find like-minded people. You know why it's difficult to find like-minded people right now? Because when you feel like you find a like-minded person, if they haven't dealt with their issues and problems, those issues and problems 9 times out of 10 are going to surface and cause conflict between you two. Wow. That's the reason why. So one thing I learned years ago is a person's behavior is about them. Your behavior is about you. If you allow yourself to be affected by someone's behavior, they became your master. You became their servant. So you should not allow someone's behavior to influence you to the point that it affects you on your emotional level and mental level. Okay, because all of us have issues, but what determines a person's strength, a person's success, is if they're willing to confront their issues and do something about it, to transform it, to transmute it. See, we all have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. But what I learned on this path is how you transmute that weakness into a strength. Don't get me wrong, not every weakness that you have can be transmuted into a strength. There is some shit that you just literally just got to get rid of. Okay. But for the most part, most of your weaknesses you can transmute into a strength. I'll give you an example. My weakness was rage. I had some serious rage issues, and I would go into serious rage when someone cut me off on the road. You know, that road rage thing? Yeah. So what I've learned to do over the years is channel that rage to something productive. So I took it and got back into kickboxing. So now when I feel that rage coming up, I go to the gym and I start hitting that bag. And I just let that rage be directed into something that's beneficial. Because 1, I'm exercising. So that's beneficial. 2, I'm learning how to box and protect myself so I'm learning self-defense at the same time. You see, that's learning how to take your weakness, transmute it into a strength. All of us have weaknesses. That's not what should make you feel bad. It's what you do about that weakness and how you transmute it to something that can be beneficial. Some people, I'll give you an example. A lot of people in social media are attention whores. Yes, attention whores. You literally whore out for attention. Okay. So how do you direct that to something that could be of strength? If you always feel you want attention, a lot of that attention issue started at an early childhood. When you wanted your mommy or daddy's attention, but they were too busy watching Monday Night Football, or your mom was watching a soap opera, you didn't get the attention. It created an issue. This is a core issue. Most humans have about 4 or 5 core issues that can then translate into problems later. Power, control, acceptance, attention, things of that nature. When you don't get some of those core issues met, those core needs are not met, they translate into a issue later on down the line. So if you didn't get that attention from your parents when you were young, when you most needed it, well, guess what? Some of us ended up doing the dumbest things to get that attention, right? So some people on social media are those attention whores. They cannot go 5 seconds without posting a selfie. It's just like bam, bam. I'm like, damn, do you breathe? Next thing you know, you're gonna take a selfie while you're taking a doo-doo. I don't want to see that stuff, but people are starting to do that nonsense because you need attention that bad, or you equate these virtual likes to your reality. See, how do you translate that? You direct that attention, not outward, seeking attention outward. You transmute that into inward. Start giving yourself the attention you need. Start taking care of your health. Start breathing properly. Drink more water. Exercise. Don't complain I'm gaining weight and all you do is keep stuffing your face. Do something about it and exercise. I'm not telling you to be extreme with your diet either or your health. You still have to have some level of enjoyment in this life. Just anything in excess is harmful. Okay, that means even if you take 1 million herbs a day, and when you start doing that in excess, it can be harmful because some herbs have contraindications that can start affecting you negatively. So understand that too. Don't go extreme with anything, but you have to learn to take that attention outward and focus it on yourself. You know, love thyself. We've all heard that before, right? But truly love yourself means, okay, let's say you have kids. Fine, understood. That doesn't mean you neglect yourself because you have kids, because a lot of parents do that. They will neglect themselves, and then they'll get a little overweight, and then they start getting upset and depressed. But that does, just because you have kids does not mean you can't pamper yourself sometimes. So let's say if you're in a household where you have the husband and the wife, or the father and the mother still there. Well, tell them, listen, homeboy, I'm gonna go get pampered today. I'm going to get a massage, pedicure, manicure. Those things are essential. May not seem like it, but it is, because if you don't do that for yourself, you will start to feel depressed, sad, and all these things. And then vice versa, the man should be able to do that too. Take his time to go do those things. But sometimes we get so caught up in pleasing other people that we forget to please ourselves. That's why you direct the attention inward a lot of times. The kids are going to get all the love, but guess what? Your kids will even get better love if you learn to master and love yourself even more.
Man, we said enough.
Because I've seen parents say, oh, I love my kids, but then they cuss them out for every little thing. But the only reason they cuss them out is because you got mad issues that you haven't focused on and faced within yourself yet. So every time your kids do something, they're triggering something about you that you don't like about yourself. So when you're yelling at them, you're really yelling at yourself. That's the problem there. So this is why in this path, we direct everything inward. Because when you do introspection, when you do inner work, when you do that shadow work, you change your external world. People will tell me, oh, but can I do a money ritual? Listen, you can do any kind of ritual you want to do. But here's the problem with a money ritual. You do a money ritual, right? You light the candles. You may have a fake dollar bill, a real dollar bill. You write on there what you want or whatever. You put it under the candles. You put your oils on there, whatever. And then you sit there after the ritual and you wait. That's the problem. Rituals are threefold. You know what the rituals are? Desire is what it all begins with. Your desire is related to intention. Some people call it the intention. Desire and intention to me are related. Okay. So you do your desire. You have that. Then you do your ritual. That's two. But most people miss the last part. They forget to take action in the physical world to make that happen. So someone does a money ritual because they want to win the Powerball, right? Or the Mega Millions. I think it's almost 100 million now, whatever, right? So they want to do the Mega Millions, and they do a ritual. They buy the lotto ticket. They put it under the candle. Oh, no, let me say this again. This is what a lot of people do. They'll do the ritual wanting to win, but they won't buy the lotto ticket. That's what I meant to say. They won't buy the lotto ticket. So you can do a ritual, but if you don't buy the lotto ticket, do not think someone's going to knock on the door and tell you you've won the lotto. That's not going to happen. So action is essential, and taking action for yourself, about yourself, dealing with yourself is essential. So rituals are important, but I tell people this: rituals are only as important as what you utilize a part of those rituals in your living day-to-day life. So I could do a ritual because I have some issues I find out. I do these rituals over and over. But I keep thinking, well, damn, I haven't gotten a result yet. Oh, it's coming. But it's not coming in the altar room or your chamber room or whatever. It's coming in your day-to-day life. You could be at your job and whatever rituals you were doing and doing, and your issues rose and you found out about certain things about yourself, you best believe soon down the road, you're going to be faced with a situation in the physical world where you're going to have to see if that ritual truly is causing a change. Because if you react the same way you have 1,000 times over, and you still ain't getting it. Now, if that situation that normally triggers you occurs and you're not triggered, then you're getting it. That means there's progress there. There's major progress because you didn't get triggered again. Most of us fail because those trigger points reveal how much work we're really putting into ourselves. How much work we're really putting into ourselves. So don't be upset because you have a weakness. Look at it as an opportunity to master that. Take hold of that and master that within you so that you can say, you know what? I'm running the show. My weaknesses, my doubts and insecurities are not running the show. I am running the show. That's why there's a difference between the I and I am. The I is the mask. It's the character that you created to survive in this fake world we live in. It's program reality that we created these certain characters and personas or personality types to survive in this world. That's not the real you. That's the I. That's the one that deals with this fake reality and fake world, and you create a fake you to deal with it. The real you is the I am. That's the true self, the demonic self. When you wake up the demonic self, the true I am, then you are more in control of every situation in your life. And you will see a great change in you. But to do that, let me reiterate this, to do that, you can't be afraid of the darkness. See, most people are afraid of darkness. They're taught to be afraid of darkness since you were little. You were taught to be afraid of darkness. This is why a lot of us slept with the lights on. Because we kept thinking there was a boogeyman in the closet. Really, that was just a jacket with a hat on top of that. But we made that into the boogeyman.
Yeah.
Right? But it wasn't the boogeyman. It was really your imagination making that, because your imagination was surfacing your fears. And we therefore run from our fears. Nah. You got to face all of that. All your things that you're afraid about yourself in darkness, you have to bring it to light. You better bring it to light. See, people have fears, right? Some people have arachnophobia. They're afraid of spiders. Just me mentioning the spider, some of y'all just jumped listening or watching this video. Some of y'all just, ooh, man, I just cringe thinking about that spider, right? That fear has to be conquered, because you may not think it's a big fear, but one day, let's say you're driving and a spider jumps on you. You know, if you don't conquer that fear, that could be it for you. Because you may swerve and and that's, people say, oh, but that's not gonna happen. You listen, I've heard the craziest things happen to people, right? And their fears surface where that was it for them. So you have to understand, every little thing has to be dealt with about yourself. Your perversions, everybody has perversions. Deal with it. All right, stop trying to hide it, sweep it under the rug, right? And then you end up doing some shit behind your partner's back and go cheating behind their back because you're afraid that your partner might not accept these things about yourself. But you never trusted your partner enough to share with them. This is why people cheat behind each other's back, because they think their partner's not down with it. So they rather go do some sneaky, underhanded stuff behind their partner's back instead of just trying and say, yo, listen, no matter what I do, this desire is still there. I'm coming to you because I want to be honest and real with you. What I need for you is to understand that this major strong desire is not going away. If anything, it's getting stronger. We need to communicate about this, so there's no shady business going on that destroys what could be a beautiful relationship. This happens quite often, but see, on this path, we deal with those things about ourselves. We're not going to just say, oh, no, those that doesn't exist. That desire is not real. No, I'm going to just meditate it away. I'm going to just, do mantras all day and night till it goes away. Listen, homeboy, homegirl, it's not going away. You're only burying that more. And anything you repress or resist is only going to persist. So it may go away for a little while, then all of a sudden you're out and about and someone catches your attention, that eye candy hits you, and you're like, whoop, all those things come right back up, and you're like, damn, I thought it went away. No, it didn't, because you didn't deal with it. Be real about your stuff all the time. Be real about yourself all the time. Okay? That's why I said at the beginning, love your beautiful, the bad, ugly, good, and beautiful about yourself. Stop picking what you want to love about yourself. We integrate that on this path. We integrate the ugly about us and the beautiful about us so we can be a whole, complete being, a harmonic integration. People always say, oh, you know, I want to bring balance, but you can't bring balance if you only focus on the light side. If you run from the dark side of yourself, you cannot bring integration or balance, because these dark things about you are just as important as your light side. And if you don't focus on that, you're always going to be off balance in this world. You're always going to be thrown off in this world, except you're good, you're bad, you're ugly and beautiful, because it's all you. Right-hand path wants you to annihilate everything that is ugly about you. The right-hand path thinks that it's ungodly, all those things about you. It's not. All those things is what makes you human. It's what makes you human to be able to transform to God man, God woman. If a real God integrates the dark and the light, that's what they do.
But like you said, I was just gonna say, like you said earlier, the God of the scriptures, he operated in the malevolent and the benevolent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And think about this, because in the beginning of the Bible, it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void. Void is nothingness to somethingness. There's no light. There's complete darkness and void. And then God said, let there be light. And God said the light is good, but the light is only good in what? Darkness. Because in order to see the light, you have to be in darkness. This is what people don't understand. They harp about the light, the light. Here's the problem. The universe that we live in, out of the multiverses, this is our universe, that out of the various multiverses is 96% dark energy, dark matter. 73% is dark energy. 23% is dark matter. And it's only 4% visible light. So the world over fights wars, destroys, and kills everything for the light. But we are dominated and sit, live, breathe in darkness. All around us is darkness. The sun is a point within that darkness. The stars are points within that darkness. So why are people so consumed by the light? Because the light is an illusion. It's an illusion and a fairy tale of something that you may obtain that could be wonderful. That's why they fall for that. You know, that Wizard of Oz at the end of the yellow brick road, that illusion, you know, Oz was supposed to be this, is that. Find out some little guy behind the curtain. Come on, man. That's the reality we're living in now. This is dark matter, dark energy. And you, I, as melanated people, this is your natural home, is in darkness. You were born in darkness, and in darkness you shall return. The neutrinos that come from the stars are there to feed your melanin, so you could absorb this energy that comes from the stars, but it's all coming from within darkness. Therefore, as a dark, chaotic being, that is your original home. This is why you, I, and a lot of people, and most of us do not realize, melanated people love chaos. I'm just telling you that. It's not because we're forced to be in chaos. It's because by nature, we are chaos beings. That means your very birth was chaotic. When the sperm reached the egg, that was chaos. You think that was a friendly proposition? The sperm swimming there and colliding into the egg? No. That, if you took that event and we were able to zoom in on it through sound and visual, it would seem like an explosion took place. Okay? So we were born in the chaos of that interaction. And then poor woman, we forced our way out of her womb, and she had to go through all that. Okay? That's not a pretty proposition.
Exactly.
Right. Yep.
So sounds like to me, okay, so sounds like to me, basically, because what I keep hearing is we have been tricked into denying the very existence of who we actually are. And so this makes sense to me when I think about this, because I want to get into this next question. This leads me to the next thing. So like for deities like Set, okay, and his fall, why are people so afraid of Set? Because we coming to know this, but what's the real issue here? Tell us the real story.
All right, let's begin with Set. Set, I'm gonna start with the origin story of Set. So Set was born to Gebet. Set, however, forced himself out of his mother's womb before 9 months. Why did he force himself out of his mother's womb? Well, first of all, one of the epithets of Set is the unique one. Mm-hmm. If he's born like everybody else, he's not unique. He's just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. For two, Set represents separation. See, a lot of the Kemetic community abhor Set because they don't really understand it. Set represents separation. Separation from what? Separation from the old paradigms. The old paradigms that cause stagnation, that cause no growth. So Set looked upon Asar not in jealousy as we're taught. Set looked upon Asar in anger. He looked at Asar as stagnation, no growth, no transformation, just pure stagnation. This is why Asar represents death, right? He represents death because of his murder, so they say. And in death, before he was resurrected, he was not in movement, in static energy. He was in stagnated energy before Set resurrected him. So Set represents separating ourselves from the old paradigms we live in. Set represents deifying the self and becoming the ruler over self. And Set represents the major key of all this, which a lot of Kemetic people miss in their community, is Set represents mastery over your own chaos. This is why a Set is known as the only one to conquer a pet, not just conquer a pet, but control a pet. This is why he's shown on top of a pet.
Yeah.
In the Meta, he's shown on top of a pet with a spear over the head of a pet, meaning he has control over his chaos and the chaos of a pet. He controls the chaos. Right?
Ooh,
so what Set is representing is really the mastery over self and the mastery of the chaos. So what's another title of Set? He's known as the god of storms, right? Well, here's the key. Think about a tornado or hurricane. I'm in Florida, so I'm gonna say a hurricane. Right? When a hurricane comes through here, and I've lived through a few of them, it's chaos all around the hurricane until the eye comes over. When the eye comes over, everything is like calm. It's calm, right? So Set represents the calm in the chaos. Controlling the chaos around you, but staying calm inside of it. Being the master, able to control all that chaos. That's why he's considered the god of storms. Why is he considered the god of darkness? Because in darkness, he learned and grew to the power to confront and overthrow a pep and control a pep, the serpent of chaos. Darkness represented the part humans are afraid to encounter and face in themselves. So what most people do is they look at Kemet as worshiping the sun. No, they didn't. Because what they don't tell people is this: 95% of the rituals taking place in Kemet in ancient times took place in the darkness of the temples, took place in the dark, because in ancient Kemet, they were nocturnal or more diurnal beings. They looked at the sun as the energy to give them the power to have strength in the dark when they did their rituals. What do I mean? All right, so the sun helps your serotonin, increases your serotonin levels. Well, at night, that serotonin level synthesizes into melatonin. Melatonin helps you sleep, but it wasn't just for sleep. Melatonin helps you reach the deepest aspects of your subconscious mind, also known as the abyss. So in ancient Kemet, they did the rituals at night because all the abundance of the sun's rays increasing the serotonin when it's synthesized at night, their melatonin was abundant. So when they did their rituals and meditations, things like that, they were able to go deep into their subconscious mind because they were fully charged up. And therefore, they were able to master a lot of their problems. That's why their society was so different than the present society, because they were able to master a lot of these things within themselves. But we've been taught, oh, in Kemet, they worship the sun. No, they did not worship no damn sun. All right? Everything in Kemet was looked upon in a physical sense and in a metaphysical or esoteric sense. Esoteric and exoteric. The esoteric was for the initiates. The exoteric were for the common folk. The initiates understood the power and mysteries of Set. They didn't try to destroy Set. They didn't negate Set. It wasn't to the priesthood of Amun and the priesthood of Asar and Heru came through that they started to vilify a Set. I mean, they started to vilify Satuh or Set. That's when they started to vilify, because the priesthood of Amun at that time was fighting for control of Kemet. And the priesthood was trying to overthrow all other mystical or mythological traditions in Kemet at that time. So don't think, oh, it was just all peaceful and beautiful in Kemet all the time. No, it wasn't. They always were at war with each other. Each priesthood wanted dominance over the whole of Kemet. And they wanted the control over Kemet for the pharaoh. That's why, and guess what's happening in today's world? Is it any wonder that DC is a replica of Kemet? Is it any wonder that these fools that think they run the world honor and really love Kemet as much as they do? Because if you go to DC, that's basically Kemet rebuilt here. Okay?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay, so now that you mentioned the sacred geometry, which originated from Kemet, what about somebody from Black history who maybe we don't know was really a occult practitioner, maybe even was involved in helping to build Washington, D.C.?
Right, like Benjamin Banneker. All right, so Benjamin Banneker. Well, anyways, Benjamin Banneker, he was in secret societies, masonry, shrinery, so on and so forth. Plus, he was in other guilds or guilds of secret societies. He studied a lot of these ancient symbols, architect, geometrical shapes, ley lines. And so therefore, being he was also a Moor, and the Moors had always established a level of secret societies to keep many of the secrets from Africa within a certain order or group of people. He was able to build these geometric lines in DC to bring in the energies necessary in that city. Because, for example, Cleopatra's Needle, or the obelisk, as they say, what really does that symbolize? Well, there's various meanings, but it represents creation, fertility, empowerment. So by them putting the Washington Monument in the middle of DC, right? They're basically trying to say that their society has been made fertile by the power of the sun and the moon and the stars. So they have Cleopatra's Needle there. And then you have the lake, which represented the Black Lakes in front of the temples of Kemet. That Black Lake represented the what? The fertility of the woman. The chaotic waters of the woman. Okay, and then you have the temple, and the temple usually represents you sitting on the throne overlooking the power symbols of fertility, empowerment, strength. So when they look at DC, Benjamin Banneker was basically honoring our legacy, our ancestry. That's what he was trying to do. But of course, they can never give him the credit. Right. They had to give it to LaFont, right? That's why in DC they have LaFont's Plaza, because it was honoring him. But really, Benjamin Banneker is the one that built most of that stuff. Okay. This is why when you look at a lot of the symbolism and the geometric shapes, a lot of that is to harness the energy. Just like when you go to your church, why the churches are structured in such a way? Simple. When you go inside of a church, they usually have a steeple or they're shaped in a certain angle. It's because that harnesses the acoustic sound. And when you're doing your prayers or you're singing or stuff, that energy is rising up, and it's basically being kept within a certain structure where they're the priests, the popes and the cardinals and the pastor can feed off of that energy.
Exactly.
And empower themselves through that energy. This is why the masjid is literally a fertile symbol or symbol of fertility. The masjid has the minaret, right? In Arabic, minaret, which the root of the word minaret is Min, the god of fertility in ancient Kemet. Then you have the dome, right? And the dome represents the breast, right? And that breast represents the breast of a set that symbolizes fertility, growth, nourishment, transformation. Well, the imam, when he stands in the front, and he usually stands in front of the Qibla, which is a little niche inside of the wall that harnesses energy behind him, he does his khutbah, his sermon there, okay? And what he does is, as he's doing the sermon, he's trying to raise the vibrations of the people. So then when they do salat, which is nothing more than a yogic form of exercise, that energy rises inside of the masjid. And therefore the imam can take that energy in. These people who are doing this, the pastors, some of them really don't have idea what they're doing, but some of them, they do. Because a lot of pastors are masons or shrine, they're in the shrine or shrine-dom. So they're Shriners. So a lot of them know some secrets, and what they're telling the congregation means something totally different inside of the temples, inside of the lodges. It means something completely different. So that's why they try to, structure things in certain ways, because they're keeping themselves empowered and feeding off of the sheep, the congregation. And the congregation freely gives their energy away. They freely go in there crying and praying and foaming at the mouth and flipping, doing head spins and windmills and stuff inside of the church. Some of them are even twerking in the church nowadays. I don't know what church that is, but I've seen this where they're twerking in the church. God is in heaven, literally. If he was in heaven looking at this ass twerking like, damn, I created that? Yeah, okay. Anyways, so now, I recently saw videos in the masjid where they had women wearing, they were wearing the hijab, the veil and everything and twerking. I was like, what? What is going on? Look it up on YouTube. You'll see it. Twerking in the masjid or the mosque, and you'll find it. Yeah. I was like, yeah, this is definitely a different day and time. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that so that leads me to the next question. So we've all been involved in some type of vampiric relationship if we've came through religion. That's basically what I'm hearing. Except we were giving power away, whereas the left-hand path teaches you to call that power back unto yourself. And acknowledge that you were the battery, the power source. Okay, so what should people consider before they enter the dark side? Because I don't feel like it suits everybody who's in the conscious community that want to. And I've done readings with people, and like I've been working with Seth, and I've been working with colleagues, and I've been, and I listened to the conversation, and I'm just like, it seemed like it's some steps that you missed before you dived into that. And so
That's a
Give
good
us a little
question.
bit about that.
Let me say
Yeah.
this. Before people dive deep into the left-hand path, we always recommend that they should do shadow work. They should always do shadow work before they go any deeper. The reason why is because shadow work is the basic steps taken before you go so deep that you may not be ready for it. Shadow work will let you see if you're ready for that, because it allows you to understand yourself more, allows you to understand your issues more and things like that. If you don't do those basic steps of shadow work and you go like try to go past that, right? Then what happens is you may be doing advanced rituals, and the energy that you awaken inside of you may consume you because you're not ready for it. It may shake you up because you're not ready for it, because you didn't do the basic steps of shadow work. The basic steps of shadow work is to just basically start to identify yourself, the weaknesses, the strengths, identify any trauma, any things like that. You have to deal with that first before you do more advanced work, because every advanced work is a level of shadow work. It's just more advanced that it can really rattle and shake you beyond what you're ready for, literally. So like some people be like, okay, I did a ritual with Set, but see, that energy of Set is not a sweet energy. Well, come here, welcome home, I love you. No, the energy of Set is like, okay, look, I'm gonna take you over here to the deep end of the pool. Are you ready? Because if you ain't ready, you know what I'm saying, let me know, because I'm gonna just drop you in there. You're either gonna sink or swim. That's Set. Okay, so you can't, like, you just can't jump into that if you're not ready for that, because you literally might bring up some stuff that will harm you more than help you, because you try to do advanced work and you weren't ready for that yet. So people who come to my classes, I usually recommend for them to do shadow work first. I have classes there for shadow work to help them before they begin that in-depth journey, because you will literally mess yourself up. You know what I'm saying? If you try to do some stuff and you ain't ready for it.
Absolutely.
So would you say that is the answer to anybody that is wanting to break free of any religious programming or anything like that, dealing with organizations and stuff like that, to break free of that programming?
Yeah, definitely.
That would be the
Start at shadow work, because the shadow work is basically it helps you question everything about yourself. That includes questioning the religions you were in, you know, questioning your upbringing, questioning the spiritual things you believed. Shadow work helps you address all of that, which is essential, because without questioning those things and taking that journey to discover these new answers, then, you know, you may literally get stuck somewhere in the advanced path. And I've seen it happen before. This ain't right-hand path where you're just gonna, you know, kumbaya together and do sweet sorrows. No, this is some stuff that literally can just punch you in the face. There's nothing outside of you punching you. It's your own energy punching you that you're not ready for, because you didn't realize the strength of yourself. You didn't realize the power of your darkness. So it's just like, it rattles you. Start slow. Don't run ahead, because people want to, I want to know this. I want to know, dog, slow down, man. Just start here, because you ain't ready for that yet. And I'm not saying that, I'm saying you're not ready for it, but your actions and behavior are showing you're not ready for it. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you kind of touched on something. So are archetypes sentient beings, or once was sentient beings, or are they just collective thought forms of consciousness?
All right, so that's a good question. All right, so let me say this. Archetypes, essentially archetypes, when it comes to Carl Jung, which was a psychologist at the time, when he developed the idea of archetypes, essentially what they were is different characteristics and personality types that can be found through all religious systems across the world. And you have these archetypes represented in these different gods in these different systems across the world. So you'll have, for example, you'll have the hero. There's always a hero god in every myth around the world. Then there's the adversary, right? Then there's the mother type. Then there's the warrior type. Then there's the witch type. Then there's this, all these kind of archetypes, right? So they're just characteristics, personality types that can literally be found in human beings. Now, as far as the gods and goddesses, are they real? Well, I'm gonna answer it like this. That's subjective most of the time, not so much objective. Why do I say that? Objectively, you can't really prove if a god or goddess is real. Even if they manifest in front of you, I can't co-sign that for you because I wasn't there. Get what I'm saying? So a lot of times that's a subjective thing. If people want to believe in a god or goddess and that works for them, more power to them. Personally, me, I don't choose to believe in gods and goddesses. What I do accept is that there's a collective conscious and a collective unconscious. And we gave these so-called archetypes, these characteristics and attributes and powers. And through our prayers and offerings and religious worship and rituals, we fed these archetypes. And some people call these the egregores. We fed them. And in time, they became something that were like an energy that almost seemed real. But that's for each person to really discover for themselves. For me, I don't really believe in nothing outside of myself. I believe in myself. And if I work with archetypes, I'm not working with them because I believe it's real. And let's say I work with Kali. I'm not working with Kali because I believe she's real. No, I'm working with Kali because I'm going to devour her power. I'm going to take that power that she represents and I'm going to take it and absorb it to do the work that I need to do inside myself. So Kali represents destruction. She's the destroyer. So if there's certain things about myself that need to be destroyed, you best believe that Kali is the perfect archetype to use, not to worship, not to grovel, but to use that energy within myself to destroy the things about myself that no longer serve me. That's how I work with it. Some people may work with Kali as if she's real because that's what they need, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me what and how they work with it, as long as they get some kind of results. But for me personally, I'm tired of worshiping or bowing or thinking something outside of myself is real. Because the only thing that's real to me is myself and the people I know in my life. Okay, outside of that, I've never met a god or a goddess. All right. And when I did, it was a projection of my mind. It wasn't something outside of myself, because everything starts within your mind. Everything. This is why the first principle of Tahuti is what? All is mind, mind is all. And people bypass that as if that shit never existed. Like it was never recorded down as that's one of the principles. All is mind, mind is all. That means everything starts in your mind and everything ends in your mind. So Tahuti revealed that is because you best believe every god that is and ever was began in your mind or the mind of our collective consciousness. It never existed outside of that collective consciousness. It only exists within that collective consciousness. So what about if you separate from the collective consciousness, which is the goal of the left-hand path? Then you start to realize most of that stuff is not real. What is real is you and how you choose to work with what you consider to be beneficial to you. So if Kali is something you feel of benefit, don't worship and grovel. Don't beg. Realize you represent that Kali. So you know what I tell some of the students in the classes? That day you do a ritual with Kali, dress like Kali. Create the atmosphere where you literally put on the mask, the deific mask of Kali, by adorning her clothes, the jewelry. If you have to create a mask or paint your face in dark blue, which was really dark black originally, by the way. But anyways, right? If you have to do that, it's even better to do that, because now you start to understand what people in the left-hand path mean by deific mask. You're only wearing a mask to awaken that which is you. It's you already. Kali is you. She's not outside of you. So when you put on that mask, you become Kali. Start to awaken every part of yourself that is Kali. Every characteristic and attribute of Kali is awakened inside of you. And it starts to help in the practice and journey of mastering yourself.
Absolutely.
That's how I work with it. So if I do a ritual with Set, I do everything possible to adorn myself in a representation of Set. So I can realize that Set is me and me is Set. I'll give you an example. In some of the rituals in ancient Kemet, one of the final rituals that was enacted for them to fully become an adept on the journey of self-mastery, this is what they did. They had the temple, they brought them through the temple, and there's the 3 parts of the temple, right? There's the Sanctum Sanctorum, which is the Holy of Holies, the last part of the temple, okay? So when they get to the Sanctum Sanctorum, they go, and the initiate sees a big golden curtain, and there's a throne sitting there. So the master tells the initiate, sit here, and then asks the initiate, are you ready to meet God? Are you ready to meet the mysteries of all that you've been seeking? And of course, the initiate usually is going to say, yes, I am. So then the master stands back and says, well, if you're ready, get ready to meet God. So they slowly roll back that curtain, that golden curtain, and it's a golden mirror in front of the initiate. So the initiate sees a reflection of herself or himself, and they're taken aback for a second because most humanity is trained to think there's some literal God. And when they see the reflection of themselves, the master looks at that individual and says, he could see the perplexed look on that individual's face. And so she looks at him and says, why are you perplexed? Well, I thought I was going to meet God. You are. You did.
Yeah.
You're looking at her. You're looking at her or him.
Yeah.
It's you. It's always been you. Was the final initiation in most of these mystery schools across the planet. It's always been you. You're that one God that you've always been seeking. Stop searching in clouds, in heavens, and places like that.
Everything outside you.
Yeah. It's always been you and will always be you.
Yeah.
That's it. That was usually the final initiation because you are all of these archetypes, these gods and goddesses. All of that was created by the minds of humanity. This whole construct we live in today is literally the matrix created by our minds. And we then allowed some darker elites to take control of that matrix and enslave us inside of it. When we were the ones who began the foundation and of the building of this matrix that we live in. Now most of us are enslaved inside of it. That's why you have to awaken like Neo. But what's strange is in part 4, the new one coming out in December, Neo forgot who he was. He has to start all over again. Sounds familiar because a lot of people start on this journey on the left-hand path and never finish and go right back to where they came from. And then years later, they find themselves coming right back in here because they forgot. They wanted something to help them outside of themselves, and they go running away from this and realize, damn, I still can't find it because it ain't there. You are the one.
We got a question that was also asked. This is so good. Fitness Alchemist. He asked, "What's your take on life after death, and where do our loved ones go, or where do we go?"
So that's a good question because one of the classes I teach on, one of the magical systems I use is necromancy. I'm a necromancer. All right. As a necromancer, one thing we learn is that there is a realm of existence where spirits exist that have passed from the physical. Now, is it what we've been depicted in movies and in certain mythological systems? No. Usually what you find out is that there's different realms of existence after this physical death occurs, right? And it's like there's these different portals or gateways where these spirits reside in. You have the beginners, those are the recent ones who passed, right? And even some of the recent ones are, let's say, intermediary or go to more advanced portals or gateways, depending on the work they do here. Then you have the intermediary path, and then you have the advanced path. Each of these is like a portal or gateway where you go to a different level of vibration and frequency where you learn certain things to propel you to, let's say, more gnosis, more awareness, more things like that. Your loved ones, as recent expirees in the physical, their energy immediately within the first 72 hours starts to translate out of this physical vibration, and they start to go into the astral realm first. Some call it the etheric realm. That's where, if you ever done work in the astral realm, you will see some of your loved ones, or you will see other spirits. The thing is, that's because that's the first place they go to. After that, which the astral realm can take a long time or a short time, time is irrelevant in that those realms of existence. Okay, so after that, they go to the spiritual realm. And after that, they go to the mental realm, and so on and so forth. It's a journey. Unfortunately, many spirits never bypass or never raise up out of the astral realm. One of the reasons why is religious belief. Two, they never did enough work here, so they sit in the astral realm, etheric realm, to the spiritual realm until they basically reincarnate again. So they just sit there. They're like in what some would call purgatory. Okay, they just sit there because they never advanced enough. So they sit there until they're able to come back to complete the schooling. The purpose for you here is to receive schooling in mastery. Mastering yourself is key. If you're not able to do that, you're usually gonna just sit there in that realm and then come back. Some of our ancestors, right? And mind you, when I say ancestors, pay heed to this, because a lot of times we say ancestors and it's like we're generalizing across the board. Your ancestors may not be my ancestors. Why do I say that? Because usually your ancestors are blood relatives, bloodline. Now, yes, as a melanated people, we all are interconnected in some way, but that's not your ancestors. A lot of times we get that mistaken. When you go into work necromancy, you start to find out that's not clearly the case. Your bloodline is usually those people within your ancestry, personal ancestry, great grandma, grandma, great, all the way back. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to meet and encounter and work with other spirits that are from other bloodlines. You are. As a necromancer, you learn that. You speak to the other spirits, communicate with other spirits, and you do work with those other spirits. But your personal bloodline is just that. That's your personal ancestors. That's the connection that you can make to receive wisdom and knowledge. But let me say this again. If your ancestors, grandma, uncle, aunt, whatever, was an asshole when they were alive, and they ain't changed since just because they passed. They're still an asshole in the afterlife. Okay, people have this habit of thinking because they became ancestors, automatically they're crowned with glorious salvation and wisdom. No, they're not. If they were an asshole while they were alive, they're still an asshole in the afterlife. And I cannot ask anybody to believe that. You have to find that out for yourself. But through my workings in necromancy, there's a lot of assholes in the afterlife. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you the honest truth. A lot of spirits hate the hell out of human beings. Why? It's because you're still alive. You are where they want to be, and therefore they're jealous, which breeds hatred.
Yeah.
So a lot of spirits are stubborn. When you try to work with them, they don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
You got to entice them some kind of way and basically command them to do the work that you are asking them to do. You can't be nice and say, okay, well, let's just, I need you to do. No, you got to literally say, listen, I'm the grave lord here. And I command you to do this work. This is the pact we're making. And if you refuse the pact, I'm going to still bind you to do that work. You can't beg them all the time. You can't ask. This is why we mess up when we work with spirits that have passed away, because we think they're automatically going to be sweet and nice and love us. And they're going to just be there for us. No. Listen, my grandmother was a stubborn ass when she passed. She was 95 when she passed, stubborn as hell. Okay, and since she's passed, she's still stubborn. Right? She's passed like 3 years now, still stubborn.
Yeah.
She don't want to communicate a lot of times. I gotta force her to communicate.
Yeah.
Just because she passed does not mean she's changed. She still is undergoing her schooling too. You understand? So your ancestors, yes, they do go to a different realm of existence. And yes, you can communicate with them. And yes, you should communicate with them.
Yeah.
But do not get distraught if they don't want to communicate right away. Because one, they're still undergoing their own schooling.
Yeah.
Two, if they were stubborn there in life, they still may be stubborn in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And three, because they're newbies on that side, they're still not able to really hear your call sometimes.
Exactly.
They're still over there trying to learn where they're at now. Sometimes, from what spirits have said, when they wake up on that side, they have no clue where they're at.
Exactly.
Because the misnomer is that when they die, they look and they see the light. Listen, spirits have told me you never go into the light.
Right.
Because when you go into the light, that's the light guys that have been waiting to devour you.
Yep.
So you're supposed to sit in the darkness, and that's when you start to receive communication and connections. But people always think, the light, the light, the light. No, sorry, buddy. Not the light.
Yeah.
You got to stay away from that. That's how they trick people.
Yeah.
Okay, some of y'all have had near-death experiences, and some of y'all realized when you were going into the light, there was something trying to drag you in there, and you said, "Wait a second, I got to get away. I got to turn away."
Absolutely,
absolutely. Remember the movie Poltergeist?
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
She said, "Don't go in the light."
Yeah, and they were trying to drag these spirits into the light. Nah, son, you go into the dark. So just remember that. They're there.
That's how I got back in my body.
Yeah,
that was the only way I could get back in my body. Both times.
Because if you had gone into the light, they would have trapped your body.
Yeah.
And your mind would have been trapped there. Your body would have still been here.
Exactly.
And that happens quite often. Those people veg out in this life, and that's why they look like they're spaced out. They're not spaced out. It's because they literally, their mind's trapped in another realm.
Exactly. Exactly.
A good movie that helps you kind of get a little idea is Insidious. All 4 chapters. Watch Insidious. There is some truth to what they're showing there. Right?
Absolutely. That's true. Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Let me say this because I gotta get going.
Okay.
It's getting a little late, and I have a Mr. Doggy here who's ready to go.
Yeah.
All right. So it was a blessing. It was good, but I gotta get going. Mr. Doggy gotta poop. So
yeah. You answered everything and some.
Yeah.
Thank you, y'all. Check him out.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
Eternal Black Flame on YouTube.
Yeah.
Check him out. Check out the videos. Take your time. Don't rush it. Just like he said, take your time with it.
Yep.
And you know, you got your dark goddess over here. I'm still with y'all, hanging with y'all. We go rock this shit out. You know.
Listen,
but thank you.
Khamsin is a lot more advanced than some of y'all may give her credit for. I'm just telling you now. If you need to reach out, she can answer a lot of y'all questions, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Reach out to her, because a lot of times we bypass the dark goddess and thinking that I'm gonna do all the answering. No. She can answer a lot of that stuff for y'all, right? Just remember that.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Peace.